whenever you met Larry, his first question would be, how was your personal life? And I remember that he often said this in class, that, you know, on your deathbed, you're not going to wish you made more movies, you're going to wish you spent more time with your loved ones. And I think he truly lived that to the fullest and inspired that. I miss you, Larry, I love you, and I wish I was there to hug each one of you today.
Like many of you in the room today, when I think of Larry, I think of his classic film, The Graduate. And one of my favorite scenes in that movie is when Benjamin explains to his parents that he's going to marry Elaine. And his father's response is, Benjamin, that seems kind of half-baked. And Benjamin's response is, no, sir, it's completely baked. Well, Larry Turman had a career that was completely baked. And beyond being a tremendous producer, he was also a gentleman. So he had two qualities that are in woefully short supply today. And when Larry called to ask us to mentor, I think we all said a quick yes because of those qualities. I miss him already, and I thank him for having an influence on me as a person, as a producer, and I thank him for everything he did for all of us.
Larry Turman, forget about how spectacular filmography he has and about some of the many, many awards he has. Forget about all of that. What I remember and really cherish about my experience with Larry is one of the nicest, kindest, most generous people I know. And when I was just starting off and he had no reason to befriend me, he believed in me and treated me like an equal, and I will never, never forget that.
I met Larry Turman when I was a young boy, not even a man. He was my father's business partner for 20 plus years. At first, he was just the father of John, Andrew, and Peter, and somebody we went on ski vacations with. But as I grew older and became interested in the film industry, he became more than that. My first film, Short Circuit, I brought to the Turman Foster Company. They helped get it set up and financed. And as I launched my first job as a producer with a movie, within the first days, he pulled me aside and gave me incredible advice. He said, sit at the table, every meeting, take notes, listen. If you have an instinct, speak up, don't swallow it. But we're leaders, we're strategic, there's a skill here, so don't be afraid to sit back and also watch, because this is your opportunity to learn, and I learned a ton. I owe a lot of my career to the opportunities that he and my father gave me at the beginning. But as I evolved and became a successful producer in my own right, he was always checking in, asking advice for himself as the industry evolved, and was a cheerleader for everything that I did. I was grateful for Larry in all phases of my life, and we will miss him.
They say never to meet your idols, but there's an exception to every rule, and Larry Turman was that exception. I applied to the Stark program for a lot of reasons, but a main one is that I read his book and I knew that I wanted to learn from that man. And he and the program blew away all my expectations. He was one of the kindest, smartest, and most direct educators I have ever had the pleasure of learning from.
Larry Turman, a friend, a dear friend. He always taught me luck, preparation, tenacity. Luck. Whoa. Talk about luck. Larry Turman got to dance with Audrey Hepburn. How about that one? How about the next thing he taught me? A project is only dead if you allow it to be. 10 years you could work on a project. If you're still working, you're a producer and maybe you're going to get it made. That was Larry. Always up, always smart, and I helped get him into the motion picture home, and that's where the two of us ended up having a great time together. Miss you, Larry. Love you.
My favorite Larry memory was of all of the emails that he sent to me during my time at Stark that had the subject line, you. He sent them often, he sent them on different occasions. They were always short and sweet and personal and really warm and full of humor. I really am glad that I have those in my inbox still to be able to look back on them with fond memories. And even though there were so many of us, he really made each one of us feel special.
At lunch with Larry in his favorite Italian restaurant, Angelini in Beverly, I was airing my frustrations and complaints and resentments about this particular studio executive. And Larry patiently heard my, my laundry list. And when I am done, he said, I'm gonna tell you an old proverb. It says, the hand you cannot bite, you kiss. And he asked me, can you bite his hand? And with that smile full of compassion and wisdom that Larry had, he went back to his tagliolini al limone. I went back to mine, and I will never forget.
The very first day of the Stark program, he told us that his door was always open, and it really was. He showed us that in this business, we could achieve success, but still be good, kind, and generous people.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Larry. I was among the first fellows at the American Film Institute, and Larry was one of my mentors. Later, he gave me my first opportunity to direct a movie for television, and with his partner, my first opportunity to direct my first feature. So I'm much in his debt for his support, for his belief, for his good humor, for his constantly being there as a comrade. He was a gift to me and to all of us.
Larry Turman and I were both high school basketball players in Los Angeles in the 1940s. The only difference was he was all city and I was second string. I first met Larry when he was a young literary agent with the Paul Kohner Agency, and I was a young producer-director. We became good friends, and Larry and I, and Julie and I, used to have dinner together regularly. When he took over the Ray Stark program, it was a great movement on the part of SC. He developed that program and made it the premium program for training producers in the United States and probably the world. Larry made a difference.
Toward the end of the last century, Larry Turman called and invited me to lunch with Dean Daly and changed my life. They asked me to run the film school at USC. And I said, well, I'm very flattered, but I'm afraid I can't do it because I'm producing 2 films in the next year. They said, well, we think you can do this too. I said, I really can't. Thank you. Larry called me after that and said, Julie, I want to tell you that I was once asked to run Warner Brothers. And I said, why would I do that? I'm a film producer. And the opportunity never came again. Shortly thereafter, I was asked to run the graduate film school at NYU, recommended by Marty Scorsese, and I said yes. And Elizabeth Daly and Larry Turman went on to build an empire at USC with a little help from their friends.
It was always about how are the students doing this semester. He was always very concerned, very patriarchal, if you will, wanting to try to anticipate things. And then he would tell me with really great satisfaction how previous students were doing. And it was never so much about how they were doing in the industry, but who had gotten married, who had had babies, what was going on. He was always looking at people's life in totality. And then he would turn to me and ask me about my life. And I would say about Larry that he was like a true rabbi. He would take time to listen, and then he would always offer very sage, if not shrewd advice. And then without fail, every single time I spent time with Larry, he would end with this. He would say, you know, Babette, when this is all over, it's never going to matter what you did in the industry, what your credits were. It's only going to matter how much time you spent with your family and your loved ones. And did you cherish them? Every single time. And so when I think of Larry, I think of him as an exemplar of how to choose a life well lived and well balanced.
What I remember most about Larry was his kindness. Thank you, Larry, for being so kind to me and so many other people. I love you and we'll miss you.
Larry believed in the rule of 3s, so I'm going to give you 3 lessons. Number 1, if you want to get something done, give it to someone who's busy. Number 2, never pour yourself into cement. And number 3, and these are his words, not mine, assumption is a motherfucker. I love you so much, Larry. You truly changed my life.
Any words you'd like to share before we sign off?
My only word is sort of selfish. I think we picked a really smart, serious group, and I'm having such a good time listening to your opinions. Smart, serious, diverse. I'm having a good time as a guest listening to you all. Truly, I mean, I'm not trying to butter you up. I'm very impressed. It's always a good feeling when you feel you pick really smart, good, caring people.